Text number 38. Dhumena vriyate vahinir यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस् तथा तेनेदम् avritam. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Okay. So yesterday we discussed about the lust, and now in the 30th shloka, it is Krishna is saying about the three coverings. So just to understand that how the lust covers living entity, so this three analogies giving. Smoke covers the fire, so that is like three levels of covering. So fire covered by smoke is like beginning of Krishna consciousness, and dust, mirror covered by dust, cleansing of spiritual, so the cleaning by spiritual practices, and then embryo knowledge completely covered. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. This covering is but lust under different manifestations like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be little perceived. Okay. Somewhat it can be perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits in his Krishna consciousness slightly, that is the situation, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke, because when there is smoke, at least the fire can be perceived. Although fire is necessary when there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Okay. The dust on the second one. The dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. Cheto Darpan Marjanam. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position, for the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. Third one. Okay, so this stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts, and the smoke covered fire is compared to the human being in the form of, so the 3 analogies given. So the one like embryo covered by womb is like trees completely covered, very difficult, and the smoke covered fire, smoke is covering fire is like human being, and the mirror covered with dust is like birds and beasts. In the form of a human being, the living entity may revive a little Krishna consciousness, and if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in the human form of life, like fire. So if little bit you do some arrangement, it can come properly. By careful handling of the smoke in the fire, fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. Okay, so Smoke and fire, consciousness of human being. Mirror and dust, consciousness of birds and beasts. An embryo and womb, helpless like trees. Human life is an opportunity, a chance to kindle fire of Krishna consciousness by careful handling of smoke. And Prabhupada saying that one can conquer lust by continuously cultivating the Krishna consciousness, but that also under proper guidance. Okay, 39. Avritam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. It is said in the Manu Smriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex. And thus, this material world is called Maithunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence of a living entity. Advancement of material civilization, like so many people are advancing, they think this is the success, this is the goal of life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence of a living entity. The more they are advanced, the more they are getting entangled in the material advancement, that much more it is difficult for them to get out of this material existence. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness. But actually, that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of sense enjoy. That is the only enemy. Okay, because of that is little feeling of happiness or enjoyment, one continues to remain entangled in that material existence. So this is the further characteristics of lust. That is, lust covers the living entity's pure consciousness. Lust is never satisfied, no matter how much one is like satisfying lust, or like fulfilling or engaging ourselves in sense gratification is like putting fuel or putting ghee in the fire. So by putting ghee in the fire, fire will never be extinguished. That is the analogy given from Manu Smriti. So in a completely different analogy, Krishna compares lust to fire. This is a different analogy. Okay, so the previous shloka analogy should not be connected here. So lust is never satisfied with any amount of fuel. It simply grows as it is fed. The best way to stop lust is to stop feeding it and let it die. So some people say, no, okay, I have this feeling, that feeling, so let me do this. So once if I do this, and I will be satisfied, and then I can completely be free from this lust, and then I will perform bhakti. That's why people feel that if I continue doing, if I engage myself in this sense gratification, then one day my lust will be completely fulfilled, and then I will be free, and then I can perform bhakti. So that's not the point, because engaging in sense gratification means putting ghee in the fire. Okay, then Prabhupada is saying that the material world is like cycles of sex life, Maithunyagara. This is the punishment of living entities disobedient to the laws of God. So when they are against the law or disobedient to the Krishna, then they are getting this punishment. Prabhupada is saying that lust is the symbol of ignorance, because advancement of Material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence, because lust only, when a person is too much lusty, he try to fulfill that, and that's how everybody is trying to be advanced in material civilization, from the material point of view. More money, more house, more everything, so that is ignorance. So-called happiness from sense gratification is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So till here we understand, we read like how the lust is very dangerous and what are the characteristics of the lust. Now coming the point on the how to conquer this enemy, the lust. So 3.40, 41, 42 and 43. It will talk about how to conquer the lust. Okay, let's see that. Now text number 40, the 3 sitting places of lust. Indriyani mano buddhir asyadhishtanam uchyate eteir vimohyati esha jnanam avritya dehinam. The senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So these are the sitting places. The enemy has captured different strategic position in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Because before conquering the enemy, one should know where the enemy is there. So mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification, and as a result, the mind and the senses become the repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department become the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. So lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. Okay, so that's how it works. That lusty intelligence gives this idea that actually you are this, so you can enjoy like this. Okay, so when a person start thinking like that, because of that false ego, person identify himself that, oh, I am the man, I am this, I am that, and so he identifies himself with matter, and in this way he mind and senses, he considers that he is the mind and he is the senses in that way. Okay, so the spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as a true happiness. So then, because he thinks that he is his consciousness is now polluted, he is under false ego, so he thinks I am the enjoyer and now I am enjoying through my senses, so this is all true happiness. So this false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.84.13, very important famous sloka. यस्यात्म बुद्धि गुणपे त्रिधातुके स्वधि कलत्रादिषु भौम इज्जति यत्तीर्थ बुद्धि सलिले न करहिचे जनेश भिक्षेषु स एव गोखरा. Okay, so here 2-3 things are explained. A human being who identifies this body made of 3 elements with his self, yasyat buddhi kunupe tridhatuke, who considers the byproduct of the body to be his kinsman. Okay, first point is here, who identifies the body made of 3 elements with his self. So he is having no idea of soul, he is thinking I am the body. Second, he is considering the byproduct of the body of his as his relatives, kinsmen. Third point, who considers the land of birth worshipable, bhom ijadhi. He considers his land of birth as worshipable, And fourth is Yattirth Buddhi Salilena Karhiche, who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge. So these four people, one who considers himself body, and one who considers his byproduct of the body as his relatives, okay, very important. And third, who considers the land of his birth very worshipable. And fourth, who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meeting devotees of Krishna there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. Janes abhigges usa ev go kharaha. Okay? Who is like ass and cow, who are having this four kind of mentality. Any one of them. Okay? So what are the repositories of lust? Mind and the senses. Mind as a center of all sense activities. So mind is the reservoir of ideas of sense gratification. And what is intelligence? Intelligence is the capital and next door neighbor, very, very near to the soul. So how intelligence influences the spirit soul? So lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego. That's what Prabhupada is saying, that you identify yourself with the body, with the matter, with the mind and senses. So spirit soul comes in that trap of intelligence and becomes under control of false ego, and then becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as a true happiness. So you think this is only true happiness. Okay, so in this way one has to see that senses, mind and intelligence, these are the three places where lust resides. So senses, beyond senses, above the senses is mind, and above the mind is the intelligence. Okay, so like that one has to see. So that's what the three sitting places of the lust is explained here. Okay, now we have to regulate the senses. Since the senses are the weakest, they are the easiest to begin conquering lust with. So therefore destroy lust in senses by following religious regulations. Okay, so that is the 41st shloka. Once senses are influenced by lust when he feels attracted to pleasure and repulsed by pain. The senses send images of desirable and undesirable objects to the mind. Okay, let's read the purport. 41. Tasmat tvam indriyani adau niyamya bhartarshabha papmanam prajahi hi enam jnana vijnana nashanam. Okay, important one. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses. Because when senses are attracted toward sense object, they are pushing the mind, and then mind is influencing the intelligence, like that. Okay, so that analogy is given, that horse analogy, the chariot. So where the chariot is and the horses are like the senses, and the rein is the mind, and the driver is like the intelligence. So when the senses are uncontrolled, like horses are uncontrolled, then the whole chariot will be uncontrolled, and the passenger is like soul. Okay, so it will be experiencing the happiness and distress. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning, so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. So it is easy. Krishna is saying that it's very easy if you curb the lust at the senses level only. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Okay, so that is the knowledge. So by such so using this knowledge only, one can conquer lust. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. Okay, so that is Jnana and Vijnana. Jnana means the knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, like spirit soul is not the body, different from matter. And Vijnana means the specific knowledge that the soul is the servant of Krishna. Okay. So it is explained in this way, and it is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.31. Jnanam param guhyam me, Jnanam param guhyam me, yad vijnana samanvitam sarhasyam tad angam cha grahana gaditam maya. The knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. That is the main thing. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Always remembering that I am servant of Krishna, my job is to serve Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. So, from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. So study also we discussed that naturally when living entities understand that I am the servant of Krishna, okay, so then naturally he loves Krishna. But then when it is perverted, so he starts thinking that actually I am the enjoyer, and he forgets that the master is Krishna, my master is Krishna. So he thinks that I am only the master, so when I am only the master, so I should enjoy everything, so that is called lust. So but if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful, very important. Krishna consciousness is so powerful. Prabhupada is saying that it's very difficult to control lust or turn back. Very difficult to return to the normal condition. What is the normal condition? Serving Krishna, loving Krishna. Nonetheless, so even though it is very difficult to return to normal condition, nonetheless Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Even a late beginner. Okay, so one should not think, oh, I am too late. So it's never too late. Okay. So from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Okay. So first Jnana and Vijnana. Jnana means knowledge of the self as distinguished from the non-self. Vijnana means a specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Lord. Then Krishna consciousness, one should learn Krishna consciousness from Bhagavad Gita. The knowledge of self and super self is very confidential and has to be understood as explained by the Lord Himself. What is Krishna consciousness based on Bhagavad Gita? Living entities are part and parcel of the Lord and simply meant to serve Krishna. That is all. Okay. Then Krishna consciousness protect love from deteriorating into lust. So lust is only the perverted reflection of love of God, which is natural for living entity. Because naturally living entity want to love someone and serve someone. Okay. So Krishna conscious education from the very beginning prevents that natural love from deteriorating into lust. So if starting itself on gets that education, then he will develop love for Krishna, or he will regain his love for Krishna automatically. So when love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. So because if in the starting itself, if one starts learning Krishna consciousness, it's easy. But if he already learns many things and completely become entangled in the lusty activities, then for him it becomes difficult to come back to the normal condition. Normal condition is to love Krishna. But still, the power of Krishna consciousness is that even a late beginner, so even though like Prahlad Maharaj says the bhakti should start in the Kaumaram Ashrit Pragya in the 5-year age, but still a late beginner benefits and can become a lover of God by following the regular principles of devotional service. So even the very late person, like 20 year, 30 year, or anyone, okay, even at the last moment of his life also he can perfect his life. Okay, so that is the idea, that no need to become sad that I am too late, but again no need to become very casual that oh it's okay, anytime I can do. So both things has to be taken very carefully, not to consider things very lightly that anyway anytime it can be started, or not to become very morose or sad that it's too late. Okay, it's never too late. Anytime one can start bhakti, but it is always better to start as early as possible. So as soon as one understands that bhakti is important, one should start. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So now, next shloka 42 is about hierarchy of sitting places of lust. Okay, so that we will discuss tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Hare Krishna. So if you have any question, you can ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I have one question.
Yes.
So here it is mentioned in one of the lines that if we worship the place of our birth, then we are being considered as cow or ass.
Yeah.
But Prabhuji, we have I myself have so much attachment to the place where I used to live.
Okay. So what is the question here?
Is it what they mean that attachment, we should not have attachment?
Attachment means if you like you are living in US now, okay, and you are attached to your country India. Why? Because it is the place of Vedic system, it is the place of Krishna. Because of those reasons, if you are attached, then it is okay, and you have a desire to come to India because that is the best place to perform bhakti. That kind of attachment is good, favorable for bhakti. But if you are just thinking because I was born there, that is my country, so it is bodily relationship, na? Because you are born in India in this body. Last time one may have another body, which was American body or British body or any place, right? So that time we may think, oh, this is my land, my nation. So somebody like Prabhupada said, these all freedom fighters are like fighting for some country, so thinking about that. So at the time of death, they are thinking about that nation. So they will take birth there. So what is your actually birthplace? How many births I have taken, we don't know. So like that, if we get to know that these many births are there, then how many places of birth you will love, right? Because all this material thing. Okay, so in that way you have to think, then it will be, then you will understand that actually it is no use. Okay, that's why it's called mudha. Okay, ass or cow. Cow is also like not understanding much things. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.